everybody, it's Anna with Whispering Roots, and today we are going to be showing you how to make some refrigerator pickles. So all of our kids at all of our schools have been growing cucumbers and growing dill in preparation for making pickles, and they weren't able to do that in school, so we're going to show you how you can do this at home. It's super easy. We also have more cucumber plants going in our shop. We got some right back here, and so those are going to be ready this summer in our garden, so about when cucumbers are ready later, we'll be able to make tons more pickles too. So to get started on our pickles, we are going to first get our jars ready. So you can really use any jars that you have at home. You can use the typical kind of canning jars. You can take an old pickle jar that you had from the grocery store. I have like old salsa jars, anything that you have really at home, even these kind of plastic deli containers that you might get from takeout, wash those out. Anything works. We're not actually going to can this. It's just going to go in the fridge. So any container with a lid will work well for this. So we got all of our jars ready to go. Then we're going to make sure we have all our ingredients in place before we get started. So we are going to get some water. So I got our water measured out. We have regular, just kind of white vinegar. You could also use apple cider vinegar. And we have kosher salt here. So we're going to use just regular kosher salt, but you could also use the special canning and pickling salt. You're just going to need to adjust the amount a little bit, which we'll talk about. We also have a little bit of sugar just to kind of balance out the saltiness. We have a bunch of fresh garlic cloves. We have peppercorns, so the whole peppercorns in a jar here. And then we have our dill. So went ahead and just got dill from the grocery store and washed it and put it on this plate. We also have our cucumbers. So best for this are the smaller kind of salad cucumbers. These little ones are perfect size. They came in a bag like this, just got that at Walmart. There's also these other mini salad cucumbers. You can use the English cucumbers, which are the longer skinny ones. Those work great as well. So we got all of our ingredients ready and we're gonna get started. All right, so first step is to make our brine. So brine is just vinegar and water and salt. You can really do any ratio you want, but for ours, we're gonna do 4 parts water to 1 part vinegar. And that to me gives just the perfect balance. If you really like a vinegary pickle, you can obviously do more vinegar and less water. But we're going to start with that. You also want about enough brine to make a cup per 16-ounce jar. So if you have bigger jars, you may need more. If you want to do smaller jars, less. Just depends on how much you want to do. But again, you'll need about a cup per jar, so that can kind of give you a good idea where to start. So we're going to do 5 cups of brine today. We're going to start with 4 cups of water into our bowl, and then we are going to do 1 cup of vinegar, and we're just using the white vinegar. Cheapest stuff. You probably have it on hand at your house. We're going to mix that in with our water. And then we're going to do salt. So like I said, we're using kosher salt here, and we are going to do 3 tablespoons. If you did want to use the pickling salt, that works just fine, although it's a little finer of a granule, so you're going to want to use a little bit less. So I would say do about 2.5 tablespoons instead of 3 if you're going to use the pickling salt. Otherwise it might be a little salty. But if you like salty pickles, you can do a little bit more. So now we're also going to add just a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar just to balance that out. And then we're going to go ahead and mix it together. So if you want this done really quickly, you're going to have to wait for the salt to dissolve. So you can absolutely boil this brine to get to the salt to dissolve quickly, but you really don't need to. We just need to let it sit for a couple minutes and that salt is going to dissolve. You can kind of give it a stir every once in a while. And that's all we need for our brine. You can also make a ton and save this for later. You can just put it in a jar and it'll last, and then you have it on hand for when you want to make pickles. I'm going to set our brine to the side. And then the next thing we're going to do is get all of our ingredients ready. So we got our cucumbers. We're going to go ahead and slice those. You can do any shape you want. So these are perfect if you wanted to just leave them whole, if you like a whole pickle. We have some of those right here, so you can just throw a whole pickle in the jar. We can also do slices like this, or we can do pickle spears. So it's totally up to you what shape you want. If you want to do spears, make sure that you're using your knife safely. Ask an adult before you use a knife. Make sure you have a good grip. And then you're going to put your other hand into a claw so you don't cut your fingers off. And to do slices, we're just going to go down and slice our cucumber. Depends on however thick you want them. If you want them really thin, if you like them a little thicker, whatever you want, doesn't really matter. And that's all we're going to do there. So if you want sandwich style ones, you can do that shape. If you want to do the spears, we're going to just take our knife again safely, make a little bridge over it, and we're just going to cut a nice line down the middle lay it on its flat side, and then slice it down the middle again, and we have our nice little spears. If you're using those long English cucumbers, you may have to cut them in half again so that they're the right height to fit in the jar. But again, just slice down the middle, lay it on its flat side, and give it another slice, and we have a great slice for pickles. All right, so we got our cucumbers ready. The next step is our garlic. So we're just gonna take whole cloves of garlic. We wanna get the skin off, and all you need to do to get the skin off is take the whole clove, just give it a little smash, and then, oops, the paper is gonna come right off, and you have your whole garlic clove. I like to do about 4 cloves per jar. So that's however many jars you're doing, make sure you do about 4 cloves per jar, but you can for sure do more if you really love a garlicky pickle. Also, it's gonna take of this size cucumber for a 16-ounce jar. It's gonna be about 3 of those little cucumbers will fit in 1 jar. So that can kind of give you an idea as you're estimating as well. The other ingredient we have are our whole peppercorns. We need a teaspoon of those. And then we have our dill. So we're gonna look at about 2 big sprigs of dill per jar. So that can kind of, again, give you a good estimate with however much dill you're gonna need to make your jars of pickles. So now we're just gonna assemble our jars. We'll take our jars. We're gonna start with our teaspoon of peppercorns down in the bottom. You can of course do more or less to your taste. Got our teaspoons. We're gonna put our 4 cloves of garlic in each jar. If they're little, you could always do more too. We're gonna put a couple big sprigs of dill in our jar. I like to leave the stems on. It helps it all stay together so it's not floating around all in your jar. And, ooh, that's a pretty big one. We'll put another one in there. We got our dill. And then we're gonna go ahead and put our cucumbers in. Just stand them up in our jar. At this time too, you could add anything else you want. There's lots of different variations. We could do, if we want to do spicy pickles, we could add some crushed red pepper flakes, like a teaspoon, half teaspoon, depending on how spicy you like it. We could add some jalapenos. We could add extra garlic. We could add a bay leaf. Can really put whatever we want into our pickles. We can also do a ton of other veggies as well. So then this one, I'm gonna go ahead and do our slices. Get it all filled up. And then last step, make sure your brine, all the salt is dissolved. And it looks good. So then all we're gonna do is pour our brine so it covers all of our pickles almost to the top. And that is just your basic dill pickle recipe. So these would be ready to go. Put the lid on, put them in the fridge. But we're gonna go ahead and customize this one a little bit. This one I want spicy, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes to this. Now you could also add some sliced jalapeno, you could add extra garlic, whatever you really like to make the flavor how you want it. If you like a sweeter pickle, you can also make the brine with a little more sugar. So just back in that step when you make the brine, add more sugar and you get a sweeter pickle. Really, you can customize it however you want. So then we're gonna go ahead and put the lid on and put these in the fridge. These would be actually ready to eat in a few hours, but they're really gonna be even better after they've sit a few days. So you can eat them the next day, or really after 2 to 3 days, they're gonna be at their best flavor. If you do the whole pickles, you're gonna want to leave these in there more like 4 or 5 days. They're a little bigger and they're gonna take more time to absorb the vinegar. So these need a little more time. But yeah, after that, they're ready to eat. They'll keep in the fridge for several weeks. And then after you finish your cucumbers, your ready-made pickles, and you have just this jar of brine left, you can keep using this for several weeks. So just slice up a few more cucumbers, throw them in there, or slice up some other vegetables, whatever you have, throw them in there. If the brine is pretty low, you can just add a little bit more brine to it, or a little more vinegar, a little more water. Replace the dill or garlic as needed, but these will last you several weeks too if you want to just keep adding more cucumbers. All right, so besides pickles and using cucumbers, you can also use any other vegetables you like. Here we have some cucumbers and carrots together. We have carrots, we have onions, you can do jalapenos, cauliflower, really any vegetables that you have, you can go ahead and pickle them. Make sure you also label and date all your jars before you put them in the fridge. So thank you for watching today. Make sure you like and subscribe our page for more videos on how to start your own garden and more easy recipes you can make at home with your kids. And we'll see you next time.